Hi, my name's Diana. I came back home after the army thinking I'd find peace, maybe even a few warm smiles. Instead, I found silence and red marks on my grandmother's arms. They said it was just her skin. Said I was overreacting, but then I found the video, the bruises, the forged documents, the lies. My mother and sister didn't just try to erase me, they tried to erase her. And for years, they almost got away with it. Why would a family go this far to bury the truth? And why did no one else stop them? The wind picked up just as I turned onto the street where I grew up. Wichita Falls hadn't changed much since I left for the army. Dusty yards, faded fences, porches with tired rocking chairs. But the house at the end of the block, the one that used to feel like the center of my universe, looked smaller now. Not physically, but emotionally, like it had shrunk in spirit. Or maybe I had grown. 8 years of deployments and barracks and sandstorms had stretched me in ways I couldn't undo. The porch light flickered when I stepped onto the front steps. That bulb always flickered. Dad said it gave the house character. He'd been gone for 5 years now. I reached out and knocked. Not loud, 3 firm taps, enough to be heard but not enough to feel like I was invading. Still, it took too long for someone to open the door. Velora opened it, my mother. Her gray hair was pulled tight in a bun, not a strand out of place. No hug, no welcome home, baby. Just a glance up and down, then a tight-lipped, "You should have called first." I offered a weak smile. Didn't want to give anyone a reason to disappear. She stepped aside. I entered. The living room looked cleaner, colder. The big family photo that used to hang over the mantel was gone. The old recliner where Grandma used to sit had been replaced by a stiff leather chair. No scent of pot roast or cinnamon, just disinfectant, like someone was trying too hard to keep something sterile or hidden. "She's upstairs," said, voice flat. "Sleeping," I figured. Long day. Valora shrugged and disappeared into the kitchen. I stood there a minute longer, taking in the unfamiliar arrangement of familiar things. They hadn't waited for me. That was clear. Dinner came fast. Isolde, my sister, was already seated when I entered the dining room. She looked up briefly, just long enough to register me. "You're back," she said like she was statting the weather. "Looks like it." Valora brought out a tray, grilled chicken, roasted carrots, and some boxed wine in a jug. No seat had been set for me. I pulled out a chair. "Thought you'd be tired after all that travel," Isolde said, slicing into her meat. "Didn't expect you at the table." "I'm not tired," I replied. "I'm home." Neither of them responded. As they talked about real estate markets, someone's baby shower, their weekend plans, I sat in silence. No one asked about my time in the army, about what it was like to come home. I was a shadow in their spotlight. At one point, Isolde chuckled at something Valora said and added, "Well, if you told me 10 years ago this house would finally have some peace in it, I wouldn't have believed you." They both laughed. I didn't. After dinner, they left the dishes in the sink and retreated to the living room. I stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the half-eaten dinner plate in front of me. Then I turned, walked upstairs. The hallway creaked under my boots. That hadn't changed. Grandma's door was closed. I hesitated. My hand hovered over the doorknob, then I opened it slowly. The room smelled faintly of lavender and something else, something metallic and wrong. The curtains were drawn. She lay on the bed, her face pale, eyes closed. Her breathing was shallow but even. I stepped closer. Her hands rested above the blanket. That's when I saw them. Angry red marks, some like welts, others like bruises lining her forearms. I reached down, lifted the blanket gently. Her skin, so thin, so fragile, was covered in them. She stirred. "Grandma," I whispered, my voice caught between fear and fury. Her eyelids fluttered. Then, almost too soft to hear, she mumbled, "Don't inject me again." I froze. A million thoughts fought to surface. Who did this? Why? How long has this been happening? But I said nothing. I couldn't. Instead, I sat beside her, watching her sleep, replaying that whisper over and over in my head like a song I never wanted to hear again. Was she sedated? Was this neglect? Abuse? I didn't know, but I knew it wasn't okay. I didn't storm downstairs. I didn't accuse anyone. Not yet. I needed to understand what I was walking into. This wasn't the battlefield I trained for, but it sure as hell felt like a war. I pulled the blanket back over her arms and leaned in to kiss her forehead. Her skin was cool, dry. My lips trembled. As I turned to leave, her voice, small, raspy, broke the silence again. "You came back." Finally, I stopped. I didn't cry, but something inside me cracked. My feet didn't move. My breath caught somewhere between my chest and throat. "You came back finally," she had said. The fragility in Grandma's voice the night before had a weight to it that lingered long after I returned to my room. Morning crept in through the slats of the blinds, casting long shadows across the faded carpet. I hadn't slept. Not really. I laid on top of the covers, arms crossed over my chest, listening to every creak of the house, the familiar rhythm of the floorboards under Valora's heels, the kettles screaming from downstairs, the cabinet doors opening and closing. All so ordinary, but none of it felt safe anymore. I got up, ran cold water over my face in the bathroom down the hall, and stared at myself in the mirror. The skin under my eyes sagged a little more than it used to. My jaw looked clenched even when I wasn't thinking about it. I had the face of a woman who'd seen deserts, death, and years of commands shouted across foreign fields. And yet, it was this house that had hardened me. Downstairs, Valora was wiping down the kitchen counter when I walked in. She didn't look up. "Morning," I said. She hummed, not quite a response. "I was with Grandma last night," I continued. "I noticed she has bruises all over her arms. I was wondering. She's old, Diana." Valora finally turned, eyes blank, her skin bruises. "If you look at it the wrong way, that's not what you've been gone a long time. You wouldn't know how she's been." There it was. The first slap. Emotional this time. I'm just saying it didn't look like age. It looked like straightened. Like what? Like abuse. Her voice stayed low, too measured to be anything but calculated. "Are you accusing your own mother of something now?" From behind me, I heard Isla's voice drip like honey laced with vinegar. "You're reading too much into everything. Same as always. Remember when you thought Dad was cheating with that nurse because he didn't answer one phone call? That wasn't I stopped myself. Arguing was pointless. Truth didn't stand a chance here unless it was dressed up in witnesses and paperwork. We have a routine." Valora said, pouring hot water into a mug. "Grandma's looked after. You showing up now with wild accusations, it's disruptive." She murmured something about injections. That could have meant anything. She mumbles nonsense half the day. Half the time she doesn't even know your name, let alone what day it is. My blood simmered. She knew who I was last night. Sure she did. Old snorted. "You've always needed everything to be dramatic." That's when the doorbell rang. A distraction I didn't ask for, but welcomed. Valora composed herself in an instant. She moved toward the door, patting her hair, softening her face. When she opened it, the shift was so stark, I almost laughed until I remembered this wasn't funny. "Sharon, Marlene, good morning." Valora's voice lifted into that sing-song tone I hadn't heard since the last church picnic. Two women stepped inside, followed by a third I didn't recognize. They carried a tray of pastries and a warm smell of vanilla. "We brought cinnamon rolls." One of them beamed. "Thought we'd check in on you and Ruthie. She's resting, but I was just about to bring her out to enjoy the morning sun." Valora looked at me over her shoulder. "Diana, would you help wheel her out to the porch?" It wasn't a request. I did as I was told, rolling Grandma's chair down the hallway. She stirred slightly when I adjusted her blanket. Her eyes opened, met mine for a split second, then closed again. Valora greeted our guests with sweet tea and carefully folded napkins. "She loves mornings like this. She's happiest when the sun's out. She always had a green thumb," Sharon said. "Her Bionas used to win ribbons at the fair. She doesn't garden anymore." Valora answered, brushing a hair off Grandma's forehead. "Diana worries too much about everything. Always has." I stood beside Grandma in silence, a prop in A's stage play. They chatted about church events, neighborhood news, and the weather. No one asked me anything. When I tried to speak, it was either interrupted or redirected. I was a guest in my own bloodline. Eventually, I asked, "Has anyone else noticed how tired she seems? She's been very groggy since I got here." Marlene glanced at me, then shrugged. "Well, she's 87 now, that's just part of it." Isolde chuckled, sipping her tea. "Some people think a few bruises mean the sky is falling, must be exhausting." They laughed. I didn't. After the women left, Valora carried the empty tray to the kitchen. I followed quietly, gathering the used cups. The room felt colder now despite the sunlight streaming through the windows. As I rinsed the mugs, I heard them before I saw them. Valora and Isolde in the hallway just around the corner. "She's not staying long, right?" Valora's voice was barely above a whisper. Isolde's answer was colder than I expected. "She can't." I stood motionless for a moment, the water still running over my hands. I turned it off, dried the mugs slowly, and set them.